My name's Tom. I am the founder of a company called Sipley and the founder of a website and blog called Vancouver Coffee Snob. So Vancouver Coffee Snob is a website that started 3.5 years ago. It is a coffee shop review website that I started essentially because I got a little bit bored and needed a hobby. And it escalated a little bit out of control to be actually one of the biggest coffee shop related websites in Canada. What I do is I go to a coffee shop anonymously, and I try their coffee, I try their food, I have a kind of a skulk around the place, and I look at the venue, I look at the bathrooms, I look at what the location is like, and I do that 3 times, and then I form an idea of what I think of the place, and then I try to write a review about it. And then Sipley is it's kind of a spin-off of Vancouver Coffee Snob, in that it's a coffee shop related app. The idea of it is I curate the best coffee shops in a city, and we're starting with Vancouver to get going. The user never drinks another bad coffee in their life, because if they choose that coffee through the app, it's first off, it's guaranteed to be good. If it ends up being a dud, which I hope it won't be, we give you your money back. But the fact that we've curated it should mean that there is never a bad coffee that goes through that system. So my typical day starts, I want to say anywhere between sort of 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning, where my alarm goes off, and then I spend the next hour trying to get out of bed. And then I come downstairs and I spend the next 15 minutes trying to convince myself to meditate, which I typically never do. And then I do my actual work, which is sitting in front of a computer, and I spend the first probably 15 to 30 minutes going through the boring stuff. So going through emails and making sure that there's no fires to put out, making sure that there's nobody in need of something really urgent. And then I'll typically write out a task list of what I have to do that day. And then the actual content on the website is a huge time drain as well. And I really enjoy writing reviews, but my typical review process is probably anywhere between 10 to 12 hours to generate one single blog post. So that involves me deciding where to go, grabbing my camera gear, and heading off to that coffee shop. And I'll do it as subtly as possible. So I'll go in and I'll order a coffee, and I'll order some food, and I'll typically ask minimal questions on my first visit. I'll ask, about what the coffee shop is like, what kind of food there is. I'll ask some specific questions about what's inside that particular sandwich. I'll ask them about what coffee they use, and then I'll typically back off and I'll eat food and I'll drink the coffee, and I will use the bathrooms, and I will, skulk around the place, and I'll have a look and see what the seating's like, and then I'll leave. And then I'll go back again, probably in about a week's time, and I will get a bit more into the questions. Then I'll go back for my 3rd visit, and that will give me kind of an average score of how they're doing. So if, for example, I had 2 really bad trips, and the food was terrible, the coffee was terrible, and then the last trip was really good, what I will then typically do is go for another visit, maybe another visit after that. And, sometimes I've been 8, 9 times to a coffee shop before I've really made up my mind. And then I'll come back and I will edit the endless photos that I've taken. And I'm not a photographer, I've had to learn all this stuff right from the start, so it's a lot more difficult for me than a lot of people. Then I write the blog articles. So this year, apart from obviously releasing the app, which is coming out in a few weeks, I intend to release a podcast, and that's, from a blogger perspective, that's a great way of increasing your reach into people that don't want to read blogs. Then I'm also going to start doing more coffee events in the area, and that's a great way to reach out from a local blog perspective into the local ecosystem and start sampling coffees and bringing in people to try stuff that maybe they haven't tried before. So one of the things I really like about the whole thing, both the blog and the app, is that I get to be my own boss, and I really enjoy the pressure that comes with that. I really enjoy having to get myself motivated, and ultimately the buck stops with me. At the same time, that's the hardest part about it as well, is because there is no one else to lean on. Part of Vancouver Coffee Snob is to grow the coffee scene in any way. I actually lose money running a Vancouver Coffee Snob. It's not a profitable business, but that's okay because it's my way of helping out the coffee scene that I love.